How's everybody doing? I'm gonna go ahead and put ooh shit. Oh, Gonzabella is looking really fine. I didn't recognize her. She usually don't dress up that fucking hot. Holy shit. Mira's looking pretty good. Oh my god, Impulse. Him and Tango might be doing the Hot Ones challenge. It looks like they might be on the show. Fire Dancer's looking good. Wanyanyu is looking good. Okay, the other one, I can't pronounce it, but she's looking really good. Timmy, Timmy Toucans is on. Uh, Bob Raw. Ooh, Serene Wild's looking really good. She has got one hell of a profile. Oh my goodness. Oh, Rendog TV. I haven't seen him on in a while. Rendog's on, and it looks like he might be doing my Hermitcraft. And this other one, I think it's Masha. She's got a really weird font. She's looking really good, retro good. And Cinderella TV, it's hard to tell. I'm not entirely sure. I think she's changed her name from what it was when I followed her, but I'm not entirely sure. I think she might have been an adult film actress back in the day. If she is, she actually looks better now than she used to, and she looked pretty good back in the day. But uh, okay, let's go ahead and so if you get on, I should. Ooh, I'm up to 106 followers. I think that's an improvement. I want to thank each and every one of you for following. If you get on and chat today, I'll be able to see it in theory. Okay, now the thing with the Terra Preta is I kind of want to give a backstory to this. Um, and I'm going from memory. So like normally, either trust and verify or don't trust and look into it yourself. I'm fine either way. Uh, but Terra Preta, it's sometimes referred to, I think, as Amazon black soil or something like that. And I've seen pictures of it, and if you to me it looks more impressive than potting soil. You got to understand, like years ago, many years ago, well over 10, 15 years ago. Uh, well, actually, you can go further back. My dad bought this place. It's where I'm currently at right now, and he they put a bypass in, and he was a little delusional on it. Um, the only reason I knew anything about it is because they had covered this when we were in school. And at a certain point, now this was not so some company could put in a parking lot or add on to their business. They were putting it in for a bypass so they could get semis to avoid going through town. That's public works. That's public need. And that's a legitimate use for eminent domain. And my dad was just totally in denial. And there's a part of eminent domain, like and to just boil it down for you, there is a part to it where they're just going to come up and they're going to give you a check, and that property is going to be theirs, and there's very little you can do about it. Um, again, now if they're doing it, and Republicans have done this, I don't know about Democrats, but I know Republican. It's possible Democrats. I'm not trying to make one side look better than the other on this, but the fact is, I'm well aware of instances where Republicans have done it. And what they do is they just, oh, well, this business wants to expand. You know, this rich fucker getting what he wants, that would clearly be good. It'd be good for my campaign, so, we'll go along with it. And they've gone to court, and those will sometimes get turned down. Like, if I'm not mistaken, Donald Trump wanted one for a parking lot back when he was just Joe Blow citizen, and it got denied. But he wanted to put a parking lot in for his business, and they're like, no. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to pay them whatever they want, or you're going to have to go without it. And that's just the way it was. And but my dad didn't understand. And like, there it was. This was my brother-in-law's family too. We were all together for a holiday or something like that. And they let him know. They go, well, because I went and printed it up, and he wouldn't even look at it. Uh, he just no, I'm not selling, and we're like, well, at a certain point, they're just gonna take it, and there ain't a damn thing you're gonna be able to do about it. And I think it was one of my brother-in-law's brothers goes, well, they're just gonna condemn your property. He goes, well, it can sit here, and they're it's part of the eminent domain process, and they call it condemning, but it's not like they're going to fix it so you can't live there. It's the process where they take it and give you a check. And that's what they call it. And I think it's pronounced just about the same way. I might be wrong, but I don't think it's the same word. I think it's spelled slightly different, but it's pronounced pretty much the same way. And he just didn't get it that that's just the way it was. Well, eventually that's what they did. And the funny thing was, there's like this little strip of land on the other side of the bypass. Well, they offered him like 10 grand for it, and the reason they did that was because you can do what's called a reverse condemnation, and it's about the only thing you can do in a legitimate case of eminent domain. You can basically go and ask for damages, or you can contest the amount of money they're giving you. And that amount of what they did, that piece of land is not big enough to build anything on. So, there's in the county, there's like a minimum of what you have to build a house or anything else. And they offered him 10,000 for it. And he was an idiot to not take it. But see, his thought, well, if they're offering me 10,000, then it's got to be worth more. No. What they were doing is they knew that if you went and got a lawyer and challenged it in court, that was probably the most you were going to get. Or you might get a little bit more, but it would be better for you to take it and not waste the money on a lawyer. That's what they were looking at. And so he didn't take it. It was yet another mistake he made on that. And but he's got that. And one of the things he did, now this was very good that he did. He read all these things, and I got a buddy that last I knew he was doing organic gardening, and he was doing some pretty impressive stuff. And he's like, and I said something to him. He's like, I learned all this from your dad, and I'm like, I go, my dad doesn't do a lot of this stuff. Well, what it was is my dad was letting him borrow all these magazines and stuff that he got. Well, he was getting way more. My buddy was getting way more out of it than my dad was, And but one of the things my dad was doing was he was trying to build up the nutrients in the soil. And I can't remember. I think he referred to it as bacteria. I'm gonna put this up here, and then I gotta run to the bathroom real quick. I'll be back as quick as I can. Just hang on. Patches is back in, Jess. Patches is back in. She came in when I put my socks in the washer. Okay. So much better. Okay, let me see where I'm at. I think I got all of this done, or most of it done. Yeah. Yeah, we're done here. Well, anyways, but he did a lot of things when he was here, and he was always trying to get. Because when he got here, this dirt looked like clay. Nothing, a lot of stuff didn't really. It's kind of like it was mostly a wheat field. And he first couple of years he had people that wanted to come in and pay him to harvest the wheat. And what he did was he wouldn't let them. He had no interest in that. And what he would do is he would just mow it into and let it refertilize the ground. And then every year he did a garden, and then every winter he did what he called, it was like winter wheat. He planted it. And I think he said that it was like a couple years, and he was out, and I don't know where he was, but he ran into somebody who knew that he's the one that took over this place, and the guy told him, he's like, "Wow, you really turned that place around." Because like when I got out here, I'm not kidding you, the dirt looked like clay. Didn't look like dirt. And you come out here now, it looks like dirt. But when they uh, when they put that bypass in, they one of the things he got them to agree is that they would put black soil in here. And the reason he wanted that is because he had done all this work. He had done all this work fixing the place. He didn't want him to put shit dirt in here and then have to start all over again because he wanted his bacteria and stuff in the soil, like good stuff. When I say bacteria, I'm not thinking something that's going to cause it. I mean, it's the stuff that allows your food to grow good. And he was mad as shit. And he called it like I think river bottom or something like that. Well, he really expected them. I honestly think he wanted them to put like potting soil in here. I sincerely believe that. And that there's no fucking way they were gonna do that. There just wasn't. But when you look at this Terra Preta, like you could go out here, and I really wished I had pictures of what this shit looked like back when I was in high school, and because I think it was '85 when he moved out here, and I really wish I had pictures of what that soil looked like compared to what it looks like now, and that's all him. That was absolutely all him, and but when you look at that Terra Preta soil, they show you where they dig down next to it, and you have it kind of looks like something you'd see in a movie, something fake, where they have this really really dark shit. It's black. It does not look like you would expect. I mean, like potting soil wouldn't even look like this. If you dumped like 2 feet of potting soil on top of the dirt, it wouldn't look this good, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. And they showed it to you. I've seen it, and this is what is in the Amazon. And that Graham Hancock. Other people are talking about it, but one of the most insightful things on it I saw was from Graham Hancock, and he was talking. He goes, well, the Amazon. He goes, you got to think the Amazon basin is about the size of India. And he goes, it's almost none of it's been explored. It's just so. He goes, it'd be like saying that you've done archaeology or survey or something like that, and you've skipped India. And that's what's gone on now. And then the other thing he said was, and I heard Rogan talk about this before, and I don't know if it was Graham Hancock or somebody else, but I think it was a different interview. I don't think it was the same one that I'm talking about now. Um, they were talking about how lidar satellites and lidar and all that, what they have found is, uh, hang on a sec. Uh, there's this vast undiscovered civilization that was in the Amazon. And they talked about this on one of Rogan's shows where, and like, if you want to see a good movie on it, and I think it is somewhat accurate, it's, I think, called The Lost City of Z. And it's got a fairly well-known actor in it, and I cannot tell you what his name is. The guy that plays the current Peter Parker played. He had like a real small bit, but he was that guy's son. And they were looking for the lost city of El Dorado, and it sometimes is referred to as the lost city of Z. And if you watch the movie, if I remember, again, trust but verify, or don't trust me and go watch the movie and figure out if I got it right, because I'm not entirely sure. But I think in the end of it, they disappeared, and it was based on actual events. A lot of times when they do stuff for Hollywood, it's more like history porn. Um, Other than the name and some general shit, it's not all that accurate, and I can't tell you off the top of my head because I didn't know that much about this until I watched the movie. I learned more about it after watching the movie, so I really don't know. But when I heard Rogan talking about this, the one thing he said that I found fairly insightful was you had some of these people that went down to South and Central America, and I'm not sure where the Amazon. It's in one of those. But he went down there, and what they discovered is they talked about these great cities, these great civilizations, and then like 100 or 200 years later, they went down there. Other people, these guys were dead and gone, and they went down there and they found nothing. They literally found nothing, just a jungle. And so they figured, oh, these guys must have just been making shit up. That was the common consensus. Kind of like that thing I was watching the other day, and I think I did a stream on it, where that guy was talking about, while you had these five ancient Sumerian cities, they were like the first ones that were ever talked about, and they were always thought to be like myth or legend. And they've found them now, and he said, well, the city of Troy, from the battle, basically the face that launched a thousand ships or whatever. They thought there were people that thought that was mythology, that it wasn't real until they found Troy. It was the same thing with these, and but like Rogan made the comment when he had somebody on, and I don't know if it was Graham Hancock or somebody else, but they go, well, that's got to be where these people found them. Everybody died off, and like when Graham Hancock was saying, so, well, yeah, we took like smallpox or something down there, and it wiped them out, and it only took like 100 or 100, 50, 100, 150, 200 years, and the forest just took everything over. And one of the things he said, he goes, like the soil in the Amazon is not good soil. Because he said what they're doing is and this is why they're finding these cities now, because people are going in there and they are clearing out the rainforest so they can they can plant and grow stuff there. And he said, and it's really not good, because he goes, the soil is not good there. It really isn't. And because he said, like the soil seems okay, because as the leaves fall, and you've got stuff to fertilize the stuff that's growing there. But he goes, as soon as you clear out the trees and you don't have that steady stream of fertilizer coming in, well, it's not as good. And oh shit. Hang on. So but he said there is, and this is where again, and this is something I'm going to harp on a lot because I think he's dead right. Um, he has said before that in his opinion, Graham Hancock, there have been other advanced civilizations, but he made the comment that he goes, I think we need to redefine what we consider advanced. He goes, the idea of having cars and planes, and he goes, maybe that's not the definition of advanced we should be using. And I don't necessarily think that he's wrong. But what he said is they, and this, I firmly put this in the same category as like the Sphinx and the Sphinx and the pyramids, where but he said there is a soil there that's man-made. It's not natural. It was created, and we don't understand how they did it. It's called Terra Preta. That's what it's referred to now. And like when you see it, they show you, and I'm not making this up. If you go out and dig like a couple, make sure you don't dig where power lines are. If you're not sure, don't do it. But if you go outside your house where you live and you dig up a couple shovels full, what'll happen is, they've got these pictures where they show you, and like the top couple feet of the soil, like about this much, is just pitch black. An unnatural looking black for dirt. And then underneath it looks like the dirt that you have around your house. It looks a lot like that, or what most people have. Maybe not you, but it looks, and that's what they got. So they got this big chunk of dark stuff, and the bacteria and the enzymes and everything that is naturally in that. Well, one thing is that there's, according to the experts, they're saying that it regenerates itself. Where if nothing is affecting it, every year that Terra Preta will spread a couple centimeters or a couple inches. And they're finding patches of it all over in there. Well, this is what they did. They created this soil so they could feed themselves. They didn't need Monsanto. They didn't need Roundup and all this other bullshit which causes cancer. They improved the soil. That's what they did. And I would say that makes them greater than us. And they also made it where it will spread itself. You don't have to fork over your money to those fucking chemical companies every year. This will spread itself. And if you know how to make it, you could spread it yourself. And so, this whole thing was just kind of fascinating. And what they're finding is, he said, now you go back to the time period where some of these earlier explorers said they found these civilizations. He said around that time, you take London, the biggest city in London, it was a city of about 50,000 people. And he goes, what we're finding now in the archaeological evidence is that they had cities as big as London scattered all over the place. And if you go to that megalithic site that's near Cambodia, and I always get its name mixed up with another megalithic site, but you look it up, megalithic site, Cambodia. That's the one I'm talking about. Well, they found a city, they thought, and it was huge. Well, what they found is there's more. That's just a mere fraction of what's there, and it was like a temple. It wasn't a city. It's where they went to pray. It was their religious center, and they figure the whole city probably had 50 or 100,000 people. They figure it was close to the size of London. It wasn't in any of the history books when I was growing up, but they're actually finding the evidence for it now. And and he said that now the evidence they're seeing, they think that there was maybe a couple million people living in the Amazon. Because there were all these cities with like 50,000 people around. Maybe some had 40, maybe some had 80, but there were all these cities, and so there were a lot of people in there. Make of that what you will. And, but what they have found is, and again, they're guessing. Like they can analyze it and they can see what's in there. There's shards of pottery, and and I've looked it up, and I've heard it referred to as pottery, but I've also heard some of them say that it's terracotta, the stuff that, like, if you ever had somebody or still do, that had these home plants, the terracotta plants that a lot of people plant their before plastic. Like nowadays, most of them are plastic, but they used to use these terracotta planting devices, and there's some of those broken up in there, and that's something. And then there's the closest we have for it is we call it biochar, and that's in the soil. And then there is bacteria and other things in the soil that do not exist anywhere else in the soil around it. And the way Hancock talked, if you go somewhere where the soil is kind of barren and you take like a handful of this Terra Preta and throw it in there and mix it in, that will be life-giving soil that will grow plants again. Like if you saw that movie Martian with, and it's a really good movie, but if you saw that movie Martian with the Born Identity guy, Matt Damon, I think. That's something he could have used on Mars. That's something he could have used on Mars. He could have just spiced up a whole shitload of thing, and had a lot easier time growing crops in it to stay alive. Well, that might not be true. You got to be careful when you do that, because by taking it from one place to another, you may put something in that environment that'll kill off the actual bacteria that's there. But what they've found is that you instead of making charcoal, you got to kind of do a wet process. And what it does is it creates something a little different than the charcoal, and that's in there. And there's a lot of people. Like I was looking up to see what I could find. Well, there was somebody. Well, they're acting, and they don't. Maybe they'll work out. Maybe it'll work out, and it might not even be a bad idea. It just might not create it might not create Terra Preta. But you've got these people where they're dumping milk and bone meal. One guy took turnip soup and poured it on his biochar to energize it. And the thing is, right now, as far as I know, we do not know how to make this stuff. Well, maybe, just maybe, somebody, the government, somebody else, maybe they should go in there and protect this shit. May, maybe they should spend some time analyzing it and trying to figure out what the fuck it is. I'm just saying that's a crazy idea. And 1, 2, 3. But it just blows me away because, again, I don't know how long they've known it. It sounds like this has been found for a while. Well, why in the fuck are they not telling this to people? You know, this this maybe should be the topic for like FFA, Future Farmers of America. Hey, fuck that round shit, round stuff, that round shift stuff, that Monsanto Roundtree or whatever that stuff is. Fuck that shit. Maybe we should be in investing in our kids. If you're somebody like Elon Musk, if you want to do something cool, if you really want to do something cool, go around to some of the most educated fucking FFA parts in the U.S. Give them $10 billion. I don't know how much he has. Maybe it'd have to be 10 million. But take some of that epic money that you're throwing down fucking people's underwear so you can have a good time. Maybe go and fund them to work on this uh, life soil web stuff or web life soil stuff and this Terra Preta. Maybe see if you can get the next generation to start to move on this. And pick one state, maybe pick two states, and just find one place and have them work on it, have them work with the farmers, and see what you could come up with. Because I'm not kidding you, this could be, I will give him this though, for as fucked up as things are, he at least does seem like he's trying to figure out a way to to move to move humanity to Mars. I think he's given up, and really, um, when you look at the way he behaves and some of the shit he does, it's like, well, you know what? If there were less people like you and more people like Bill Gates, maybe the urge to move to Mars would not be as fucking huge as it is. But at least I think he's being honest about it. He's like, yeah, this place is fucked. He goes, people like me, we're fucking things up, and yeah, I could change, I could fix some stuff, but you know what? Fuck it, I'm having fun. But he's like, I'm not going to be living on Mars. I'm just going to enjoy my time, but I'm going to do what I can to save humanity. And he's just saying fuck it. But yeah, that would be something. I finished watching the West Wing, and it was like the end of the last season. Um, the girl who was the press secretary at the start of the show and became the chief of staff when Leo had a heart attack. Uh, she was getting all these job offers. There were all these people that wanted her to sit on their board of directors. You get on like five or six of them, you're set for life. And I got to be honest with you, most of these people that are on these board of directors, they're fucking morons. Let's be honest. They're fucking morons. They're a favor for somebody. They're either married to, related to, or the progeny of somebody that they need somebody that they need something from in office. So that's how they got the job, or they're somebody's kid. And anybody out there, if you want somebody that doesn't know anything and you want them to be on your board of directors, I'm available. Uh, Hell, with my health, I probably won't even show up very often. But I could really use the money. I could use the health care. Um, but it's never going to happen. But that's what it was. Everybody wanted her because of who she was, and she wasn't interested in any of it. She just wasn't. And well, then what happened was, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't really know who the name didn't ring a bell. I think it was like a made up name, but I think it's what everybody thought. It was either someone that was supposed to be like Steve Jobs or uh, Elon back when nobody really knew he was disastrous. Back when everybody thought he was like, because like they when they were doing Iron Man, they I think they reached out to Elon Musk or something like that, and had the actor follow him around so he'd get an idea how Tony Stark was supposed to be. And you know who I could say maybe he was supposed to be like that. The guy from Virgin Mobile or the guy from the Dallas Mavericks. Supposed to be somebody like that, somebody really, really smart, really dedicated. And he had his meeting, and there's all these people that are just like, oh wow, I'd really like to meet him, and all this, and they're just staring. And what happened was she went in to meet with him, and I'm forgetting that he's a fairly well-known actor. I just can't think of his name. If I was healthier, I'm not even sure. I'm just bad with names, but I know I've seen him and stuff. Like if I'm not mistaken, if you ever saw the TV show, I might be wrong, but I think he was one of the ones that was like when they did the when they were near the end of that show, Jane had sort of narrowed it down to three people he thought was Red John. This guy was one of them, and he came in, and she goes, "Look, I really appreciate you coming in. If you want to leave the job offer, I will take a look at it." But she goes, I know what's going on. I've been offered all these other ones. They're not anywhere near what I'm looking for. And then she told him what she thought it was gonna be, and he goes, "Oh God," he goes, "that sounds like a waste of your time, waste of my money." He goes, and he told her, he goes, "That's not what I'm here to offer you." And she goes, "Really?" He goes, "No." He goes, "That sounds like that doesn't sound good for either one of us." And he goes, "I've made all this money, and this is what I'm saying, like Elon Musk, and I'm not asking for me, I'm just saying if, this would be a way to enlighten your image." But he said, "I've made all this money," and he goes, "It's getting to the point where if I don't find something useful to do with it, people are really going to start to have a bad view of me." So he goes, I'm looking for something I can invest in that would be seen as good by the world. And he basically said, he goes, "I have no idea what that should be." He goes, "I got a feeling that you might." And he goes, "What I want to do is I want you to find one thing that could make a difference." And he goes, "I want to give you 10 billion dollars to try and fix it." And he goes, I would hope that you would. He goes, I'm not going to micromanage you. He goes, I'm just going to leave you alone. You get what you can done. And he goes, and then we'll go from there. And she goes, well, she goes, if you really want to do that, she goes, the thing, or he was saying, I'm thinking maybe you can help me find this, or like one thing that we could do that might make a difference somewhere. He goes, and he didn't really care. He didn't care if it was in the United States, out of the United States, so on and so forth. And she goes, roads in Africa. She goes, I think that's what you want to do. And because she said there is so much going on in Africa that does not happen because there's no roads. And then he goes, great. He goes, why don't I give you $10 billion for a budget and you try and do that? And she was like kind of shocked. And she goes, are you serious? He goes, I'm very serious. He goes, ask around. He goes, I don't usually screw around when I'm talking about money. And that's what he wanted her to do. after she left the White House. Well, she was right, and seriously, it's like, you got these people out there, and again, I'm not saying I'm qualified. I'm not asking for anything, but I'm just saying, that was something that would be good, I think, for the world if some of these people would want to do that. And but when you look at this Terra Preta, the only thing I have found that is even close to it is I want to say it's the Life Soil Web or something like that. If you type in Soil Web and Dr. Elaine, you should bring up, you should be making up for my mental deficiencies to remember, and you should bring that up. And these are people who are looking at the bacteria and the fungus in the soil. And they have shown results. Uh, like what they do is they they I don't know if it's composting or not, but they I think it's composting. You'd have to get, I'm like I said, all I can do is get your appetite whet. If you want more, you got to go look it up yourself. I'm doing the best I can with it. But there's like I think they do composting, and I think there's multiple kinds of composting that they support. Well, what they do is they sometimes make a tea out of this stuff. And I think they're involved in what's called worm farms, worm composting. And what they've done is, like, you've got these areas, like around here, I think it's locust trees. If you have those kind of trees in this area, there's like a worm or something that will get into the trees, and then they'll spread and they will get to other locust trees. So they check these things on a fairly regular basis, and then if they see these worms, these hives or whatever of whatever it is that does this shit, the egg sacs or whatever it is, well, then what they do is they destroy the tree. And what she's done is, and I'm not saying it's the same thing, but in some of these areas where they have problems similar to that, or they have a blight or something else, what they've gone in and is they have sprayed the whole tree with like a tea they make out of their compost. And it has to be in one of these areas where they have the life soil web. And when they do that, it takes care of the problem. And they also have shown that in these areas where they go in, they quit using pesticides. They start following this procedure. Well, what they find is that after like a year or two, the crops that are in that area start yielding a lot more. They're showing like an increase of it. And the one thing that I found funny about, actually, I think those can stay. Um, One of the things that I found funny, like this was years ago, and this was when I was like suffering before I lost my job. Uh, I watched this video on YouTube, or not YouTube, Amazon Prime, and I'm gonna be completely honest. The chick in question was really fucking hot, and it's the only reason I watched because it seemed fucking stupid. It really. Sorry. But this this and what it was is she was a scientist, and she made a movie. It was really low budget, but she was really fucking hot. I cannot stress that. And that was the only reason I watched it. Well, this whole video was about how um, the old trees that you have kind of, it was like something out of the fucking Lord of the Rings. These old trees that you have, they kind of shepherd and help the younger ones, like they're alive, like sentient. Yes, they're alive, but it was like this whole thing about how, and it's like, and I'm watching, I'm like, yeah, she's fucking hot, but this is just Fruit Loot shit. And what gets me though is this food soil web. They were saying a lot of stuff similar to that because what they were like. My dad, I remember him talking about bacteria. I remember that, and the but when this food soil web thing, and I'm wondering how much of it, like if these food soil people keep going because they're using microscopes and other things to study the bacteria, to study the fungus and all this other stuff. What I'm wondering is if they keep that up, will they stumble down the road onto something similar to this Terra Preta? And again, it goes to what Graham Hancock said, where well, yeah, I think there were all these other advanced civilizations. I do think that we need to change our definition of what advanced is. And but because they were talking with this food soil web, and I wonder how much of that is going. Because again, the way they're talking with this Terra Preta, if you don't disrupt it, if it's there, every year it spreads out. So it makes me think of that kudzu back when I was a kid. They brought something into the country and they were trying to use it. I think down south. And if you play that Magic the Gathering game, I think there was a card called Killer Kudzu. I think that was one. But they brought this stuff in, and what it does is it literally like took over down there. They took it out of its environment and brought it here where it did not have any natural predators, and it just went ape shit. And they were down there, and I can't remember, but I'm thinking they were like fucking napalming this shit to kill it off, or it was going to take over everything. And so I don't know. But yeah, that whole thing is just unbelievable. And but the food soil web, they talk about the bacteria, and that's good. That's something you need. And then I can't do it justice, but they've got this food soil web thing. Is they start out with the basics, and then the basics go on to the next step, and you've got good and bad. And they explain that by having the good bacteria and the good fungus, you promote the good, not the bad. And then they talk about, the next step, which be the worms, and then the next step, which would be the things that prey on the worms. And then you got the things that prey on those, like the hunter birds and stuff. And they said that, and this is something I was telling my mom, because I was actually fucking around with this the last couple of years my mom was alive. Well, the one year, it was one of the last years she was alive, she made a comment that we seem to be getting a lot of birds in the area, and we seem to be getting a lot of these like woodchucks, or not, because we had woodchucks back, and we hadn't seen them in probably a decade or two. And I go, from what I'm seeing is, as if I'm actually improving the soil, I go, then that will improve the bugs and the worms, which will attract the birds and the small rodents. And then that will attract the bigger things that feast on the little things. And we had, like the last couple of years, we had a hawk here. Hadn't seen a hawk in a long time, but we'd occasionally see a hawk fly by. And we were seeing a lot of that. And but my God, man, that is just something out there that again, it has nothing to do with me. There would be people far smarter than me, but that is something that if you've got anybody out there, if you're seeing this and you know somebody that's a rich bastard or wants to leave their money when they die to something good, let them know that's something that they could maybe do. You know, but that just blows me away, that whole thing. It's like unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Okay, this one, we're going to bury these. Because I'm not kidding you. If I had the money, one of the things I'd like to do is, well, first of all, if they ever legalize marijuana in this area, I'd really want to get involved in that. I really would, because I think that's something, at least in the short term, that's something you could grow as a cash crop and make money without having to kill. I think that's something I could maybe do in my weakened state. Maybe not, but I'd be willing to try it. Um, because you get for that medicinal marijuana, you get some pretty good money for that, and once you get your thing set up. But the thing I would like to do, if I had the money, I'd probably need some help. I don't think I could physically do it. But the thing I would like to do would be to have like a greenhouse to grow food and have like a thing in there where you can grow fish that you could eat, like cod or perch or something, and then have the water used to feed like a hydroponic thing. Have the water from the fish occasionally get used for the hydroponics, and you'd have to have somebody really really smart design it for you, but and then have a greenhouse, and you could maybe use some of the water from the thing, so you get the fish waste and everything into your hydro or into your greenhouse, but and have a worm farm and all that, and just see what you could do to your crops. I'm just gonna put these over here. Uh, I'll do it in a minute, but I think there's a chest over there where I've got flowers in it. I think if not, I'll make one. Um, but it just blows me away because where we've got this thing now, where you've got these genetically modified crops, and I've been seeing these like, oh, anybody use Roundup near you? Yeah, that's the name of Roundup. Anybody use Roundup around you? Well, it might have caused cancer. You can sue right here. And it's like, yeah, we need to get these fucking chemical companies, the GMOs and all the other bullshit. All it's doing is killing people. All these people care about is making their short-term money. They don't care. Most of them don't care if the planet's going to live or die. It's kind of like these uber religious people. Bill Maher pointed this out a number of years ago. He's like, these people that are heavily religious and they think the world is going to end and Jesus is going to come back and we're all going to be raptured. He said that's fine, but he goes, they shouldn't get to vote on our country's future. He goes, if they're in the government, he goes, they should be exempt from any vote on the future of our country, because he said they don't believe we have one. And I don't think he's wrong. I literally don't think he's wrong on that. I wish I had this set up where I could actually show you the pictures of that Terra Preta, but it is just unbelievable. It is absolutely unbelievable. And I really wish there was a desire by some of these rich people out there, because they're doing what they can, but the Dr. Elaine's group, they make money teaching people how to do this. And like, if you're someone that doesn't want to do it, like, you can basically send them in samples, they will run it, and they'll show you how to do it, they will show you how to help people. But if you are someone that just wants to farm better, they will do the legwork for you, and you send them in samples, they tell you what your soil is lacking. And but one of the things they talk about in there is, and this goes in with that thing I was telling you about, where you had that scientist that was making those hippie movies about the trees talking to each other. What gets me is when you follow that food soil web, they talk about the fungus, because what they'll do is, and my dad used to do this, it's probably all around here, because my dad would get, every couple years, he'd get this huge fucking stack, absolutely fucking huge stack of lime, and then he would just use it as needed. Well, she's talked to other people that did what my dad did. They bring in their lime, they put it on their garden every year, and then what she does is she looks around, and what she'll find is there will be a section somewhere on that property where all that lime has been put, and it's not anywhere. It's almost like it's been stored. It's almost like it's been stored, and then it will be used if needed. And I've heard her and her people say that almost anything you need, if you create this food soil web, it's there. You don't need to add it to your soil. I don't know if it's true or not. It sounds interesting. But she's shown it where these people that did what my dad did, well, you end up with just fucking subterranean piles of this shit stored, because it doesn't sit there for the next year. What is needed is used, and the rest of it, and for lack of a better term, the rest of it is moved off and stored like fat cells in the human body. It sounds like it's the product of a living system. Make of that what you will. It's kind of a little freaky for me. I ain't gonna lie to you. And but she's also said that, like the fungus, there's a thing with the fungus where it sends out messages, and if it senses something needs a mineral or a chemical or something, well, what it'll do is it will search out within the fungus network and bring it. And then when I saw that, I'm like, my God, that sounds like that fucking weird movie on Amazon Prime where that chick was talking about the trees were talking to each other. And I'm just like, okay, this is getting a little fucking surreal for me. But But that's if you actually want you want to know more about it, go ahead and look that up. Terra Preta and or Amazon black soil is probably another way you can look it up. You'll find a little bit on YouTube. You will not find much on Roku's search engine or Amazon Prime's. And Google search might be your best bet. You might have to read a little bit because there's just not that much on this. And keep in mind that there's a lot of shit out there that just might not be that useful to you. It's other people who also don't know and they're making guesses. And I don't know if any of them are trying to sell anything or not, but just peace out, and I hope everybody has a really good weekend now that we are actually approaching the weekend. Peace out, and I hope everybody has a good day.